Hello everyone, this is a little live stream about practicing. I'm convinced practicing is the key to success for every musician. I cannot imagine someone becoming a successful musician and actually be confident up on stage and have fun up on stage without having figured out how to practice. And this is what this little session is about. It's about the two first steps, the two first things we need to think about when we get into practicing. First, we're going to do a little overview about some thoughts about practicing and thinking about practicing. And then the second one is usually the chapter number one. The first thing to think about is, where do I practice and how does my practice environment actually look like? And I'm going to do a little series with many videos, with a couple of videos where I share my thoughts about practicing. My name is Petermann. I'm a trombone player from Switzerland, and I've been practicing like almost every day for the past 25 years. When I was 17, I started to practice, and now I'm playing an international career, but there has been a long way. So nothing actually came just for free. And I was never the most talented one when I was a kid. It was much more, so I just decided I'm there for the long run. This is what I'm going to do with my life. I'm going to play trombone each and every day for the rest of my life. And that's actually where success came. So it came not overnight, the success, it took a while. And the key to this is the practice routine. And I'm now going to show you how a practice routine looks like in a couple of series of videos. So let's get started here with this quote. Without proper practicing, no one ever becomes a musician. So it sounds like a no-brainer, but I think we really have to address this, and we really have to say this at the very beginning of this series. There is no way how someone can actually become a confident player up on stage, especially in jazz, but this is in general for every kind of music. But in jazz, it's very important because we're actually talking about creating live on stage. So it's not only performing live on stage, but also creating the music live on stage, taking risks, being on stage, not knowing what's actually going to happen. And without feeling confident about this, there is no way how someone can become a musician. So first, at the first step, whatever we talk about when we talk about how to get up on stage and how to practice, it's always the practice routine. And that's what we're gonna think about together here in this little session. So here are some thoughts. They're from German researchers about practicing. The first one is, practicing is active motivation. Here I like that it's actually really about motivation and that it's about activity and being active. But whenever you practice, you have to be motivated, and it's always a very active thing to do. Then the second one is, practicing is learning through repetition, perfecting a practical activity. What I like here is it's about repetition. Repetition is crucial. We're not going to see this today, but repetition is crucial. It's how to beat the forgetting curve. That's going to be another session. And repetition is just so important. It's the key is the right way. You have to know how you repeat and how you repeat things in order to actually move forward. And perfecting a practical activity, it's always about doing something in practical. It's not, it takes me like probably 3 minutes to explain you how the whole tone, half tone scale works, but then you spend a lifetime practicing to actually be able to properly apply it in the right moments. And then the third one, that's maybe my favorite. Practicing is goal-oriented musical activity that serves the acquisition, refinement, and maintenance of sensory motor, auditory, visual, structural, and important emotional representations of music. And I think emotions needs to be in here too. So it's not only about everything he says here, Professor Altenmüller, but it's actually about the emotional representation of music. How, and you also have to repeat how you can present something musical very emotionally. So these are thoughts I like when I think about practicing, each and every one from a different angle and for a different reason. Now, let's get into metacognition. What the heck is metacognition? I'm going to explain you what metacognition actually is, and we start at the most inner circle, and that's actually where most of students I work with, where they actually are. They just practice. And there the core is, I practice. That's the start. Yes, of course, I practice. That's important. I practice, but that's only the first circle. The next step is I follow a practice plan. And now you see, it's already, we start to think about practicing, because if you follow a practice plan, you have to create some guidance. You have to think about, okay, when do I practice what? How do I practice? And creating a practice plan already takes some thought. Now we start to think about practicing. I practice is just the activity and I do it. Now I follow a practice plan. There we start to think about practicing. Then we go from bottom to top. The third one is I have a practice plan that suits my needs. Okay, now this changed perspective, right? I start to think about my thinking, because I practice is just practicing. I follow a practice plan is I started to think about my practicing. I have a practice plan that suits my needs. Now I start to think about my thinking about practicing. So this is the metacognition here. But there is going to be a fourth layer. But in the third layer, it's I start to maybe monitor what I'm doing when I'm practicing. And then when I monitor what I'm doing when I'm practicing, I can recognize patterns. And what is there in these patterns? What can I see when I observe myself and my practice plan and my practicing? And then I start to think about, okay, maybe when I adjust something here or there, my practicing gets better. And now we're in the third level, in the third layer. And now the fourth layer is the most interesting one, and that's actually where you can win the game of practicing. That's in the fourth layer. I know how to take care of my motivational processes. And this is now if I monitor my practicing and my practice plans, and I can start to see patterns, I can think about, okay, today it was really fun to practice. So what did I do today? What was different? What did I do today to be very motivated? What makes me motivated to be a jazz musician? What makes me motivated to practice? What gives me the spirit? What gives me that fire to follow a practice plan and to follow a structure and actually move forward? So these are the steps here we have. I practice. These are the four layers. The first one is I practice. The second one is I follow a practice plan. The third one is I have a practice plan that suits my needs. So we need to start to recognize patterns, and I know how to take care of my motivational processes. And this is going to be very interesting if we talk about what can you actually do, how to create a practice plan that suits your motivational practices. If you have any thoughts, if you have any questions, you can always ask these questions to me. So you can leave a comment here, or in the description of the video there is also an email address or a URL. You can actually get in touch with me, and then we can start the conversation, and I can see how I can help you to figure out what do you need to do to actually control your motivational processes. Now we're going to go to another thing that's called practice environment. So this here is more of the overview, and this here is now topic number 1, the practice environment. This is where all talks about practicing start, it's the practice environment. Think about this. Where do you practice? How does the room look like? What equipment do you have there? How does the room look like you're in? And you know, is it the practice-friendly environment in this room? How much space do you have? Is it a quiet environment? So do you get disturbed from the outside, or do you possibly disturb your neighbors or anyone around you? Do you feel bothered that maybe you might disturb someone? What stress factors are there? What is it that you're not 100% satisfied or happy with your practice room? And then also, how is the light in the room, and how is the room climate like? These are all very, very important questions to ask yourself. And only if you feel 100% comfortable, you can actually spend hours and hours and hours practicing and be productive and feel good about it. Now we have some challenges when it comes to practicing, of course. We need to find peace and a quiet space. We need to take time to practice. We need to create continuity. We need to establish concentration. We need to outsmart our inner resistance against practicing. We have to take decisions whether we're going to work on the instrumental part, on ear training or music theory, or maybe rhythmic exercises. We have to block out distractions, and we have to calm down the inner critic. These are all challenges we're going to talk about in this series. But maybe the most, so what I want to do today is go back to the practice environment and why are they actually connected. So if this here doesn't work, if you don't have a practice environment where you feel comfortable, everything here is not going to work. And these are the most important challenges when it comes to the motivational, to control the motivational processes. But it starts with this here, with finding peace. And that's very much connected to the practice environment. Now for today, I actually prepared some. I did some research online and I found some pictures of practice rooms, and let's just discuss them. So this one is the first one. I actually like it. I don't know. So I think it's very clean. It's cleared up. I like this one. I think I would like to go and practice there. I feel comfortable, maybe a bit less of things just lying around. Then, next one. Maybe yes. I don't know why do I need the computer to practice? And there is that big screen on the left, so I don't know whether it is too distracting maybe. I don't like to work on a sofa. I think here, is it a living room or is it a practice room? I'm not sure whether it's a living room or a practice room. So maybe not for me, for anyone, I think it needs to be a separation between I'm practicing, I'm working, I'm concentrating, or I'm hanging and I'm just chilling out. And this should not be the same thing in the same room. I think I like this one here. It looks like this is a room where someone really works on something. That looks like a structured room, and I like that there is daylight and that you can see outside and it has windows. This looks very professional, but there is a TV, so I don't know whether this is too distracting. Is it inside? So for me, I don't know. I think I would like to go and practice there. Here it's not clear for me whether it's actually work or practice. And I think it has to be a separate room, a separate place. This is a whole different story, right? This is the hang and not the practice. Also here, this is about hanging. It's the same. It's hanging and not practicing for me. So these are some interesting ones. This one is also an interesting one. I think that's actually quite a small place to practice, but that can work. But then there is the bike. And I don't know what the bike is doing there. And then it's not like, so yes, someone made a dedicated space to actually practice, but it's also a little bit the place to put a bike. This is what I thought about. Now I found another one. This was in the pandemic. Where do they practice? So that's a clean one. That looks good. That looks very good. That looks very clean. So you don't go there if you're not dedicated to actually practice. Interesting. It looks like it's someone's living room and they are sitting at the table to eat the bananas and then they just move over to practice the cello. And it's very close. So there is no separation between living and working, between living and practicing. I think this one is a bit difficult. Here I like the windows, but when I see that this person is actually playing the tuba and there are that many naked walls, I feel like, whoa, that's going to be loud in there. I'm not sure about the acoustics of this room, and that's one of the major issues is the acoustics. Okay, at least in the back there is some absorbing material. The couch is also absorbing. That might work. This one here looks very much in order. I like this one. And this is like a professional studio. That's also a place where someone would go and work. Now, how does my practice room look like? This is how my practice room looks like. I have a box, so it's a room inside a room, and I try to keep it very clean and only the very necessary things inside. Here it's a chair and a trombone and a speaker. And it's very reduced to the max. That's what I'd like to have. So there is a window, and this window goes to the window so I can see outside. I always see whether it's daylight or whether it's the night. So I can see outside and I see the four seasons, and it's very reduced. So I have like a music stand, some lamps, something to play some music. And what sometimes happens is that I put up my electronics, and then I have a little table. But you see, it's very reduced, and it's a place I only go. I like this picture the most because it's so clean, it's so clear. It's just the trombone, some music, and the chair. That's everything. And here it's still very similar, but I also work on something else. So there are two ways to work on, but this is a place where I only go to play the trombone and to practice and to work on. So I think this is really important. And these are the first thoughts about how to practice. I'm going to continue with this series, and this is just the opening sequence. How to practice, about practicing. Learn how to practice, because without proper practicing, no one ever becomes a musician. The recap is, we talked about metacognition. That's very important, that you understand that there are several layers to how to think about practicing. Then the practice environment, we just had a look at many pictures. And then the challenges, it starts with finding peace. We're going to go into the challenges here the next time. have fun. Ask your questions in the comments, or send me an email, send me a text to simon@simonpetermann.ch. Join our free Facebook group, and then we can continue the conversation.